What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In the last video, I did just a few exterior things on the outside. I installed this new JDC custom spark plug cover. I fixed and reinstalled the passenger side apron over here. It was falling apart. I also removed the OEM emblem and installed this one on here. I attempted to wrap these emblems right here to match the orange on the stripe. From a distance, it actually looked pretty good, but I knew that it was really messed up on the corners. It was ripping and tearing. I'm just not a professional wrapper. It's actually a pretty good little Dickie song. I may end up painting those at some point. I'm not a big fan of chrome. I'd prefer everything to just kind of paint match. In a previous video, when installing the new clutch, I had the front axles out, the inner ones were leaking, and so I went ahead and re-greased them. Also, because I swapped the clutch, I had to replace the transmission and the transfer case fluid. Rear axles still need to be done, and I never changed the AYC or the differential fluid. So that's what I'm gonna get started on today. Stay tuned. If you didn't see the last video, it wasn't any crazy installs, but I did get this spark plug cover installed. Everything else, it's wrinkle black in here. It just makes it look so freaking good. And like I said in the intro, I removed the OEM emblem and replaced it with this one. I saw this one on a few other cars in the center, and I really liked how it looked. I love how it turned out. The only thing I'm disappointed on is I tried to wrap this, and it just didn't look good. Not to mention having this thing, I don't want this to be the only thing chrome back here. I'll figure out a way at some point to get those painted. For now, I still love the trunk setup. I've replaced this thing 3 times now. I've put it on here, and for some reason the tape always peels away. It actually peeled away the first time from the back here, second time from over here. Hopefully third time's the charm. Never had an issue out of the driver's side. Since I did the front axles already, I pretty much know what I need, so I'm hoping everything is here. Maybe missing a couple of items. Car is already up in the air. As you can see, I went ahead and lifted the front and the rear so that I could level it out. Anytime you drain or refill fluids, you want to make sure the car's on a level surface. I want to get this started, so first thing I'm going to do is get the wheels removed. I'm going to get the fluid drained in the AYC and then the differential, and then I can work on getting the axles out of there. axles are out of the car. A couple of little differences between the passenger and the driver. You can see that the driver's side is just a little bit shorter. And then for the passenger side, the differential has the spline shaft that goes in, and the spline shaft is on the axle itself for the driver's side. The AYC, your fill bolt is right up here. So this is the drain bolt for the AYC. This is the drain bolt for the differential. Coming all the way around, again, here is the drain bolt for the differential. Then the fill bolt is right up here. Once you get all your fluids drained, you're going to remove the axle nut. This is what holds the axle to the hub. You'll have a little cotter pin you need to remove first. You just bend it back out and then pull it. Pull these two bolts out so that you can loosen these brackets and have this line hanging free. Even after everything was said and done, I still had to put a jack underneath it to hold it up. It puts too much pressure on the brake line here, and I don't want to disconnect it again. Remove this nut, pull this bolt out, and then you can remove the ball joint. I did have a really hard time with this driver's side over here. However, the passenger side came right out. After you pull the ball joint, you remove this big bolt down here. Here's the one from the passenger side. That removes it from the strut and the little camber arm over there. That's the last bolt to come out. You may have to use the jack to kind of work it up and down, but you can pretty much just reach in here, grab that axle, and it'll come out of the hub. Last thing is to remove it from the differential. To do that, you will need one of these little tools right here. I picked this one up at AutoZone. It's part of their Loan a Tool program. I know I've mentioned it multiple times before, but for anyone who doesn't know AutoZone, and I think O'Reilly's does it too, it's like a rent-a-tool program. You basically go in, pay the price of the tool, use it for however long you want, and then you can return it for a full refund. If you don't want to return it and you want to keep it, you can. For the EVO, I did have to modify this one a little bit. All I did was just take it to the grinder. It was just slightly too narrow when I first got it. You'll have to get some sort of slide hammer. I picked this one up at Harbor Freight. I'll leave a link in the description for both of these. This thing just wedges in there just like that, and then you screw your slide hammer in right there. Give it a couple of good whacks and it usually pops right out. Now that the axles are out, this is the side that I'm going to be re-greasing. I'm not going to worry about this side. These two were good. They were not leaking at all. The fronts were actually worse than the rear, but when I did actually open them up, a lot of moisture had gotten in there. This stuff was really runny. I knew the rears needed to be done too. I'm going to get them all taken apart. I'm going to get everything taken apart on the inside. I'll get all the old grease cleaned out, and then I can work on putting them back together. Both axles are all taken apart, and I've got the driver's side all cleaned up already. Here's the stock clamps if you've never seen the difference. The OEM ones have this little band here, whereas the ones I'm using have this little ear that you tighten down. Literally all four of the inner ones were leaking when I got the car. If you read on the forums at all, everybody complains about the inner ones leaking. The ones that have these little teeth and this little ear that you tighten down, I think work much, much better. I'll be replacing both the inner and outer clamp with this style this time. This is what was such a pain in the butt for me. I remember it being a pain in the butt last time, but I think it's just because I had these cheap Harbor Freight pliers. Every time I would want to pinch it in, it would just slip off every single time I had to go to grab it. But I finally figured out how to do, and it doesn't work perfectly, but it's how I did both of them. Once you expand it, push it outward, and then just try to bend it in, and it pops that outer ring out. And then you can take a screwdriver or your finger and just pop it the rest of the way. Everything else slides off nice and easy. See, I've got the boots all cleaned up on the inside and the cups as well. I'm cleaning everything in gasoline. In my opinion, as far as actual grease goes, it cuts through it much better than anything else. Just let it soak for about 5 or 10 minutes, and I just got a rag in here to just kind of wipe everything down really good. For the new grease, this is what I'm going to be using. It's this Redline CV2. It's what I used on the front ones, and it has seemed to work pretty good. Before I used this, I did read on some forums. Even guys in racing applications were saying this stuff was really, really good. Here are the clamps. I'm going to let that finish soaking. I'll get it all cleaned up really good, and then I'll work on getting everything back together with the new stuff. Axles are both re-greased and ready to go back in. I put 4 ounces of grease into each cup. I've got this little scale over here that I use. I just put the tub on top and I scoop out and just see what the measurement is at. Once you wrap these things around, you do kind of want to make sure that everything is in line back here. It does overlap a little bit, so sometimes it sticks out. What I usually do is just tighten it down just a little bit, kind of roll it around, make sure everything is lined up. Once everything looks good, come back up top and tighten it the rest of the way down. One of the little hooks on here got me and I had to use one of Buddy's little Elmo band-aids. I will try to leave a link in the description for everything, grease, the clamps, and then, you know, the little tool right here. If there's something I'm missing, just drop a comment below and I'll try to link it down. Now that the axles are all back together, they are ready to go back in. I'm going to do the driver's side over here first. I'm going to clean up the inside over there pretty good. I want to make sure that seal is cleaned up and no debris on there. Once I get the driver's side back in, I'll knock out the passenger side. axles are back in, fully reinstalled. Here's the driver's side over here. I got the seals cleaned up really good. Because the brake clean does tend to dry out those rubber seals, I use a little bit of motor oil before I put the axle back in. Line your splines up, push it in most of the way. Give it a couple of taps with the hammer on the outside here and it should seat that little circlip. I didn't really know which step to take next. I tried putting the camber arm and the strut back in first, but I couldn't get the knuckle to line up. So I did take these back out and I was able to get the knuckle in. I was able to get it all tightened down and then I was able to get these in afterwards. After that, I just reconnected my little brackets up here for my line. This axle nut gets torqued down to 160 foot-pounds. Basically, you can back it off a little bit or tighten it down just a little bit more to get the holes to line up, and then you stick your cotter pin in and then bend the ends. Typically, you would want to get new cotter pins. However, I did reuse mine. I probably would not reuse this more than once, but just one reuse is okay. After these little tabs get bit back and forth so many times, they tend to weaken out. Now that both axles are fully reinstalled, I can go ahead and refill the AYC and differential fluid.
Yesterday and my legs and my arms are sore. I worked out everything, so my triceps are sore and my legs are super sore.
You know what, one thing you can do?
What?
Hey, come over here real quick. There's a bolt that's like sitting right next to this camera. Diff and AYC have fresh fluids now. Torque specs, for anybody who's wondering, the Allen bolts on the bottom end for draining are 23 foot-pounds, and the fill bolts get torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. Here's the pump I use to fill everything with. I get them at Harbor Freight. After taxes, they're right around 10 bucks. You can do all of your fluids with one of them, but I don't leave them laying around because they get nasty and dirty. The end right here doesn't actually fit into the bottle, so you do have to find some extra tubing to connect to the end of it. After you do one fluid, just wipe off the outside really good, dip it down into the new fluid just a little bit, pump some through, and it'll actually clear those lines out all the way. You can use it for the next fluid instead of having to buy one for each. Like I said before, you want to make sure the car is level before you actually start filling it up. You can hold it on the side skirt and it'll give you a pretty accurate reading. Wheels are not going back on right now. I've got some alignment and suspension stuff for you guys in the next video. I am going to end the video here. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up. If it helped you out with removing or re-greasing your rear axles or changing the AYC or diff fluid, definitely hit that like button. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss everything else going on with the EVO, and I will catch you guys next time.